It happened on a cold Thursday morning, the kind of morning when the sky looks bruised and the air bites at the skin. People hurried through the streets, wrapped in scarves and burdens, not sparing a glance at anyone who didn't fit into their world. Yet in the middle of that gray rush, one man stopped. A single dad named Rian, holding a paper bag of breakfast he could barely afford, stood frozen as he watched a frail woman kneeling beside a trash bin, her trembling hands sorting through empty cups for a few drops of leftover tea. In that moment, something inside him shifted, an ache, a pull, the raw reminder of how close he once came to that same darkness. And without thinking, he walked toward her, unaware that this single decision would alter his destiny weeks later in ways he could never imagine. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories to you. Rian's life had never been easy. At 33, he was raising his 6-year-old daughter, Noor, on his own after his wife passed away from an unexpected illness. He worked 2 jobs daytime as a delivery driver, nighttime cleaning office floors to keep a roof above their heads. Money was always tight, food often stretched thin, and sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford. Even with all that, he carried a quiet strength in his tired eyes, the strength of a father who refused to give up, even when life pushed him to his knees. That morning, he had skipped his own meal to save money, but his CO worker insisted on buying him a sandwich and tea. Rian was planning to eat half now and save half for later, but the sight of the shivering woman, wrapped in torn fabric that barely qualified as clothing, washed away every one of his plans. He approached her slowly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, startled still, as though she wasn't used to anyone recognizing her. Existence. Her face was sunken, her eyes dull yet deep, carrying a lifetime of stories no one had cared enough to ask. Without saying a word, he placed the paper bag next to her. Her lips parted but no sound came, her eyes filled with tears that trembled but didn't fall. She looked at him as if trying to understand why someone with nothing himself would choose to give. Rian simply nodded and whispered a soft "take care," then walked away, unaware that the moment had been witnessed by someone he didn't know, a man in a parked car who had seen everything. Life resumed its usual storm after that morning. Rian didn't expect anything to come from it. He continued his routine, waking up before dawn, packing Noor's little lunchbox, dropping her at school, driving through chaotic traffic as a delivery driver, then rushing to his second job before exhaustion dragged his body into an uneasy sleep. Yet even with all the pressures, the image of the woman stayed with him. He often wondered if she was safe, if she'd managed to eat again, if she had anyone who cared. Weeks passed, the cold grew harsher, bills piled up. Rian's landlord began pressuring him for overdue rent, and Noor's school sent a reminder about unpaid fees. At times, Rian felt the world closing in. His daughter once found him sitting on the kitchen floor, head in hands, the weight too heavy. But when she hugged him, whispering, "Papa, we're strong, remember?" he forced a smile, wiped his eyes, and kept going. One particularly difficult week, his delivery company reduced working hours due to slow business. That meant less income he was counting on just to survive. He tried applying for additional evening jobs, but was met with long waiting lists and rejections. Every night before sleeping, he whispered prayers, not for luxury, not for comfort, but simply for the strength to keep his daughter fed and warm. Then, one morning, everything changed. Rian was returning from dropping Noor at school when he noticed a black car parked in front of his small apartment building. 2 people in formal suits stood near the steps, holding files against their chests. At first he feared they were from the bank or the landlord's office. His stomach tightened, his breath caught. But when he approached, they greeted him politely and asked his name. When he confirmed, they handed him an envelope. The letter inside bore the name of a prestigious law firm, one Rian had only heard in news reports about million-dollar cases. Confused, he looked at the lawyers, wondering if they had the wrong person. But they assured him it was correct. Inside the envelope was an official notice stating that a client, whose name was withheld, had instructed the firm to support Rian in matters concerning housing, employment, and legal protection. The letter mentioned something he had forgotten, an act of compassion that revealed a heart worthy of help. Rian blinked repeatedly, trying to process the message. The lawyers calmly explained that the mysterious client had authorized immediate payment of his overdue rent, offered full funding for Noor's education for the next 5 years, and arranged for him to be considered for a higher-paying, stable job. He could hardly breathe. The world around him seemed to spin. He managed to whisper, "Why? Why me?" But the lawyers simply told him their client wished to remain anonymous. Unable to comprehend the magnitude of what was happening, Rian sank onto the steps. He felt a wave of shock, fear, and relief crash into him all at once. Was this real? Was it safe to trust? But the documents were official, stamped, signed. Everything was legitimate. His hands trembled. Tears blurred his vision as he held the papers closer to his chest. He thanked the lawyers repeatedly, his voice breaking. Later that evening, when Noor returned from school, he hugged her longer than usual. She sensed the change in him, his tired eyes suddenly lighter, his smile warmer. When he told her that their home was safe and her school fees were taken care of, she jumped into his arms, laughing and cheering. For the first time in months, hope filled their tiny apartment like sunlight, but the mystery gnawed at him. Who had done this? Why? What had he done to deserve such generosity? The answer came a few days later. While returning from work, Rian saw the same poor woman he had given his breakfast to. But this time, she wasn't kneeling beside a trash bin. She was sitting on a clean bench, dressed in warm clothes. Not new, but certainly better than before. A social worker stood beside her, talking softly. When the woman saw Rian, she gasped and struggled to stand. The social worker helped her, and slowly she approached. Her eyes were still tired, but now filled with clarity. She reached for Rian's hands, holding them gently, her grip surprisingly strong. In a broken voice, she began to explain. Her name was Sarah. She had once lived a normal life before tragedy struck, losing her family, her job, and eventually her home. She had been living in the streets for months, unnoticed, invisible. That morning, when Rian had handed her his breakfast, something changed inside her. She said no one had shown her humanity in so long that she had begun to believe she didn't matter. But someone else had noticed the moment. Her estranged brother's driver. Her brother, a wealthy businessman, had spent years searching for her, blaming himself for not being there when she fell apart. When he learned what happened, that a struggling single father had helped her with the little he had, he decided to repay the kindness in the only way he could. Sarah looked into Rian's eyes and said that she told her brother, "Help him the way he saved me, not with money, but with dignity." That was the moment everything clicked, the lawyers, the support, the anonymity. It all came from the chain reaction of a small act of compassion that he never imagined would come back to him. Emotion flooded Rian. He felt humbled, overwhelmed. He didn't see himself as a savior, just a father trying to do the right thing. Yet that simple gesture had rippled into something life-changing. He hugged Sarah gently, telling her he wished her healing and strength. She thanked him repeatedly, tears flowing down her cheeks. Days turned into weeks, and the transformation in Rian's life grew even more remarkable. The law firm arranged interviews for him, and soon he was offered a full-time stable job with benefits, something he had dreamed of but never expected to receive. His evenings were freed from the exhausting second job, allowing him to spend precious time with his daughter. He began saving for a better future, little by little, building the foundation of a life no longer defined by struggle but by hope. As for Sarah, she entered a rehabilitation program and gradually rebuilt her life. Rian visited her occasionally, bringing Noor along, letting her see that kindness had power, that small actions mattered. He told her that helping someone wasn't about expecting anything back. It was about recognizing humanity even in the darkest corners. Life moved forward, but Rian never forgot that morning, or the whirlwind that followed. He learned that sometimes kindness comes back when you least expect it, from places you never imagined, in ways far greater than you dreamed. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you of the power of compassion, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps this channel continue spreading love, hope, and humanity. Before we end, please comment below, kindness matters. And with that, the story of one single dad's simple act of love becomes a reminder to the world that even the smallest gesture can send ripples that change lives forever.